So they created the constitution, the secret rulers. Who did they represent? Who were they working for? Anti-Zionist Jews. They came with the Koran. They created an Islamic country. They forced all the non-Muslims to leave. Two sides are fighting each other of who's going to rule the world in the New World Order.
Welcome, David. Once again, we are most excited that we will continue the exploration. We've had quite an interesting series so far with the church bells of the devil. And of course, everyone is curious to know how we will continue today. Welcome, David.
Yes, hi. It's great to be back. I'll get straight to the point. So the Bible says that there is the ruling families. You could call them the children of Israel, the children of Noah, the children of Adam, and everybody else. They call them beasts or pests or peasants or animals. And many of these people lived within city walls. And as you noticed, we finished off showing the fraud of the history of these alleged church bells. And for example, when people talk about free energy, nothing is free because you have to build these amazing buildings in the first place. Now let's have a look at the first picture. An example of buildings that we see around Europe and America. This is from the Crimea. Yeah, and it's one of these amazing classical buildings, as you can see. Yeah, God knows what fake history they've given it and what it's for. Yes, now when you look at the next picture, this is from Malta. They'll say it was an opera house or something, but people are asking, how did they build these things? Oh, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. There's so many stories going around and so many rumors, even stories saying, hey, maybe they're, many centuries old, or they didn't build it with horses. Yeah, okay, yeah. Those things are understandable. Yeah, they modified photos. Yes, because the way photography was done in them days of because they were selling things, and there were obviously some people who've never studied these things, and they just make guesses. So now the next picture is Poland, Warsaw, and here was one of the major central cathedrals there. Onion domes, which many people will say look like a mosque, or did the mosques copy these onion domes? And did the mosque come from Moscow in Russia? Yes. So now when we go to the next page, what we could see is these amazing classical buildings. What you could see is that, buildings in Afghanistan, in Kabul, classical buildings that are blown up during the war. Yes. And so we could see the same building. Yes. The same building and nearby buildings. Go to the next pages. I think you'll have to go back. I don't think it's in the same order as me. Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. I'll go back. Further back. Yes. Further back. Yeah. That is further. Yes. Further back. Well, the next page. Well, basically, the next page, this one, is in Afghanistan. It's a classical building. They're repairing it, blown up during the war in Afghanistan. Noticed it's built on top of a kind of a hill or something. People would call it a mud flood building, amazing building when you look at the pictures just, before the war. Now go on to the next page. And what do we see in the next page? What we can see is when the building was under construction, it wasn't finished just over 100 years ago, late 19th century, early 20th century. Many of these so-called amazing classical buildings are not even old. They were built at that time, and we had the technology then. Many people don't realize until you look at photographs of ships in the 1880s, 1890s, these huge mega steamships, and the way we were building them. The next page. Yeah, so it's some fantasy. Yeah, have a look at this classical building. They're building it. I've been involved in construction projects, doing them myself out of my own cash, and I know the wooden logs and things like this, and some of the metal logs, because I did it in third world countries, some construction projects. So to save money, it was done a similar way, but in the end, it was very good, like these so-called amazing structures. Yes, that people are talking about. Many of them are not old. Yes, and they were actually built recently. Next page. Yeah. So if we look at, and many people are saying it was a global civilization. Yeah, because many of them are recent. They were built in recent times all over the world. Yes, but many people are jumping to conclusions because they've not had a look at anything, not studied. Many people in the Tartaria groups making fake videos, this, that, everything, talking about this, that, whatever, just inventing stories. And anybody believes it. But, the dumb people believe it because they don't check anything. Next page. Yeah. Yeah. So now here we have somebody. This person, he's wearing a Palestinian scarf. He's called, David Weiss. Yeah. Depending on where he is, he could be called Weissman, Weissman, depending how you want to pronounce it. He's from Europe. He's white European. He's Jewish, and he doesn't believe in the Israeli states. But many people think it might be to do with politics, but a lot is to do with religion, and it's to do with the Messiah or Moshiach or Moshiach or however you want to pronounce it. It's because there is a war going on about the Messiah. And if anybody watched the a video that we did, Science of the Kaaba, then they will understand why Germany had to be defeated and destroyed in World War One and Two. There is no Germany right now. The Americans occupied. The American army is everywhere. Same in Italy. These countries don't really exist. Many people don't realize this. So these people, they don't support Israel. It's a lot is to do with the Messiah, yes, or to do with the Caliph, because the Germans declared the Caliphate. So, and that caused a world war that lasted from World War One all the way through to basically 1945. And in some parts of the world, it continued in the 1950s. And still today, many of these wars and other conflicts are to actually do with the Messiah, Mashiach, or the Caliph, or the coming of Christ. And this is a very serious matter. Yes, but more information about that is in my book, New World Order. If you haven't read it, then you won't understand it. But next page. Now, next page. Now, here is a person. His name is Muhammad Assad. He was basically one of the top 10 founders of Pakistan. He is also amongst the top 5 or top 10 translators of the Koran. His father was a Jewish rabbi. They're going to say his father was Jewish, but let's remember, before the 1960s, what did they call the Jewish people in Europe during World War II, Raphael?
All right. Well, at least according to Wikipedia, what they say is many people in the camps were called Musulman.
Yeah, you've only remembered a small part, but we did a lot of work on that, not just in the camps, it was everywhere. These people were known as Musulman is the German word for what? Jews? Christians? What is the word in English?
Muslims?
Buddhists?
No,
Muslims.
Muslims. Yeah, no, of
So,
course, Muslims,
Muhammad,
yes.
yes. So, Muhammad Assad is from the same family. What family is he from? The first word in the first paragraph.
He is from, well, the Weiss family.
Yeah, he's from the Weiss or Weiss family. He's from the same family, and along the line of they'll say Jewish rabbis. The word rabbi just basically means an Arab or an Arabi or a teacher. Yes, and so they've given a bogus history about this guy in the early 20th century. Yeah, today you would call him Jewish, but 100 years ago you would basically call him. What would you call him?
Well, good question. I'm not sure what they would be called.
You would call him. You answered the question before. They were not
Yeah,
called Jews before. What were they called 100 years ago?
well,
What would you call
literally,
him?
well, Musulman, literally.
Let's not speak German. Let's translate to English, Raphael. Literally,
Muslim.
I'm trying to
Muslim.
make it easy for the crowd. Yeah, so this
Yes,
man
yes.
was a Muslim, and his father was a Muslim rabbi. Yes, but they've given us a fake history. So now his father, Weiss's family, yes, he did Talmud study and he learnt humanism, gymnasium, and any other things. But anyway, this man was one of the founders of Pakistan or Pakistan. Pakistan was created by the German Muslims or Germanic Muslims, or if you want to call them Jews today, because today you give them a different title, you'll say Pakistan was created by the who with today's name. Don't say Muslims now. You've got to use today's name. Pakistan was
Well,
created
today
by who?
would be
He was a founder.
by European Jews, like you said. Or Jews?
So Pakistan was created by the Jews. Yeah, so his name is Muhammad Assad. Yes, but his European name is Akiba Wais. Yes, and he's and many of their family and other
Well,
people
here, just to be
related to the
clear, here it
family.
says it's his father's name is Akiva Wace, but still, yeah.
His father's. So I got it mixed up. Yes, but
But
he
still, Wace,
Leopold Weiss.
not Assad.
Sorry, I got
Yes.
it mixed up. I can't remember everything. Well, I've
Yes,
not been
many,
drinking today, so don't
many
worry,
people in
guys.
history.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm just saying a big statement here. Pakistan was created by the German Muslims, or if we use today's title, because they want to falsify history, it was made by German Jews. So when did Pakistan actually become Muslim? Where did they get the Quran from? Because many of these, evangelistic Quranists are actually from, origin Pakistan or India. So let's go through it. Yeah, next page. Yeah, so Muhammad Assad. Yes, you could read out who this man was.
Muhammad Assad, he was also the first person to officially become a Pakistani citizen. Muhammad Assad was the first citizen of Pakistan. He was the first one to get a Pakistani passport.
Basically, that's enough. So he was the first Pakistani on earth because him and his buddies, they created Pakistan. So of course, if you create it, you're going to become the first citizen. Don't you think so? If I'm going to create,
Yes.
a new country, and I call it, Maniac Land, I'm going to be the first maniac with the first maniac passport. Yes, you see. So now
Indeed,
the
yes.
next page. Yes. So because people want to call them Jews, so here we have his photograph. Muhammad Assad, he was in Saudi Arabia. They were involved in creating the Hajj, in spreading the Quran. There's a picture of his father or his grandfather in the Kiev Post. I forgot if that's his father or grandfather. You could call him a rabbi, a Jewish rabbi, but at that time they were known as Muslims. I'm not talking about just in Germany during World War II, the Holocaust camps you pointed out correctly, but they were generally just known as Muslims anyway. Yes? So, we're talking about, these Jewish Muslims, they created Pakistan, the first Pakistani, because it was called India before then. Same like, Bosnia, Kosovo, Montenegro, and all those places were called Yugoslavia. It was called India. So they broke apart half the country, and it was called Pakistan. And him and his friends were the main guys. Yes, there's pictures there. You'll find him with the Saudis. Oh, they put him and his friends. They put the Saudis in power. They spread the Quran. They opened many Quran schools. They helped to write dictionaries. Many of his friends helped to spread Hadith, everything. But they were spreading the Quran to people who were not even Muslim in the first place. Oh, now many of these people have got the Quran, and they've said, okay, let's get rid of the other parts of Islam. But now the Quran is the word of God to them. Oh yes, and it came from the Jews of Germany. Now let's go to the next page. Yeah, so here we have, yes, here is the chairman of Pakistan. What does that photograph say? This is a picture from the United Nations. Who is the chairman of Pakistan?
I guess here it's Muhammad Assad, or here you have, like you said, Leopold Weiss.
Yes. So whatever his name is, we don't know because people use multiple names. Yes, wherever you go. It's like when you're in China, you could say, my name is Wadamingzi Yingshanga. Yes, Jidama, it means my name is Yingshanga. Yes, you see, you choose a name whereby you could be recognized by the people there, whatever is seemed fit. So when Pakistan was formed, yes, he was the actual speaker for the entire Pakistan in the United Nations. Don't forget, Pakistan was a bigger country at that time. Bangladesh was also called Pakistan in them days. Do you know this? There was no country called Bangladesh. It was actually Pakistan. Yes. So, these people created it and they were the speakers. They made all the policies. Now, the next page. Yes, here we have, yes, after, Leopold Weiss, connected to other anti-Zionist Jews. Don't forget, they're anti-Zionist Jews and they're against the state of Israel. They're against the state of Israel. So now the thing is, they're mysteriously spreading the Koran. They created Pakistan, one of the most anti-Israeli countries. Oh, here he is. You could read it. Here is a photograph. Who was Muhammad Assad, even when Pakistan formed? What was his job
Assad from center with the
in the
staff
photograph?
of the
Assad?
Department of Islamic Reconstruction, West Punjab, Pakistan in
Reinvention.
1948.
Yeah, reinvention, reconstruction, recreation. Oh,
Mhm.
so this was after he left Mecca, and he's there with all these priests or Muslim rabbis or Muslim mullahs. So basically, he's the leader of Islam in the entire country to make sure that people there learn the Quran and everything else. Because still, by far, more than half the people did not know the Quran and did not learn it. There were still peasants and poor in Pakistan. People can check what Pakistan was in the 1940s. They don't need to ask me. Yes, and so it was arranged, organized, financed by Germanic Muslims or Germanic Jews. Yes, Pakistan was created by the Jews, what we call Jews today. They took the Quran there. And of course, they gave, they gave many of the meanings, and then their opposition, yes, there was the opposition against them, who invented many of the meanings and wrote the dictionaries, like the Bustani family. Yes, who've got $1 billion business today just from their dictionaries. You know what I mean, and uh, uh, I'm proud of them in a way because they helped to destroy evil people, many of which are Quranists. Many of them are evil because they're following these dictionaries without even checking who wrote the dictionaries. And they're trying to claim something is from God and saying, this is what God says. This is what God says. God said that. God said this. Same like the evangelist in the saying, oh, the Bible says this in the book of John in chapter 15, verse 5. If somebody has a look, it says here, and then in the original Hebrew or the Aramaic, Bullstein, mate. Who wrote the dictionaries?
Well,
Yeah, people can check all these things
the great
themselves.
thing about this is anyone can watch online debates of, Christianity versus Islam or whatever, and you always find something in each book that seems to contradict everything else, and the discussion is endless. That's what I can say.
Yeah. The thing is, why am I speaking like this? Because I don't. There was I noticed from my Facebook and from my groups about 1,000 people started to study the Quran, and I'm making it clear it's a historical document. Fomenko made this clear. Professor Anatoly Fomenko of Moscow State University, and it was the alternative, and it looks like it's the opposition. Just because different sides are fighting, it doesn't mean something is from God. So now we could see these Jewish Muslims who are fighting the Zionists, and they're promoting Sunnyists, which is Zionist anyway. Sunnism is Zionism. It's just a different pronunciation. So the thing is, and they brought the Quran, so did the British, and so did other organizations, the East India Company, to Punjab, to Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. And the British set up many schools, and of course, so there is a big thing going on. It's to do with the Mashiach or the Messiah. Now, many people are going to turn around and say, oh, the Quran came from here. Here's the dictionaries. I think this is the meaning of it. Get the hell out of here. I've seen it with the evangelists, and now it's the new movement. Next page. Yeah. So now here we have Muhammad Assad. You'll find many of his videos, even his interviews in the late 1980s, 1990s, of how much he hated Israel and he was anti-Zionist. He was a very powerful man. Yes, he had a Saudi wife, he had a European wife, he's got his children, grandchildren, and other things, and him and his friends, Jinnah and a few others, they created a country called Pakistan. They refused to stay. They needed to create Pakistan because Pakistan um, controlled many of the other people who came from India. Many of the Arabs who are in Palestine, in Gaza, actually came from India, and the other half came from Europe, like from Russia, Circassia, the Balkans, and Germany, and they intermarried. We showed this before. So what they were doing is they were shipping millions of people to Kuwait, Dubai, Bahrain, Oman, everywhere else with the East India Company, to Egypt, to North Africa. Many Moroccans, Algerians, Tunisians are actually from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. And then the whiter skin amongst many of them in that region is because many people from Europe went the other way in the first place. They went there because they were running after the collapse of Moscow. And many people who were known as Muslims or Musulman ran from Europe to North Africa to preserve the Koran. And then the British came along and the Jesuits came along, and what did they do in North Africa and in other places? So there was big competition going on, and the Quran was very important. It wasn't about skin color. They need more people because when this old world system broke down, when the Prophet Muhammad had his revolution and the city walls started breaking, the Knights Templar were with him. And they seized, Jerusalem, known as Constantinople, and the Knights of the Templar took the science and they started spreading it all over the world. And this is in sacred geometry in my book to show that the followers of Muhammad knew this sacred geometry, to do with the Platonic solids, and it's got something to do with the Kaaba. And that's in my book, Science of the Kaaba. If you've not read it, don't guess, don't invent your own meanings and say it's the cube of Satan. Come on, have you ever met Satan? If somebody's going to comment and talk about this, you put your money where your mouth is. When did you meet Satan? What time did you meet him? What did he say to you? Why didn't you take photographs with him? You've got no evidence. You're just going to talk bullstein. I am not here to talk, fantasy or fairy tales. But here is Muhammad Assad. Basically, he was one of the 10 main founders, and basically he was at the top. He ran the Department of Education in entire Pakistan.